The level editor for Doom 3 was really pissing me off because I mostly have been fucking with it because I tried the dhewm source port, dhewm, dhewm3, and I was fucking with the game, and you know, it has a few differences here and there, but nothing that significant as far as I can tell. But because I was fucking with it, I decided to try to fuck with the level editor, and I've been fucking with it since the game was brand new. And also, kind of as an aside to that, I always thought it was weird how Doom 3's editor launches from the game itself. Like, I mean, I think there's a standalone exe, but you can also just launch it directly through the game by literally typing editor in the console. But either way, you can do that with Doom 3 as well. And I was fucking with it. I made this little test level, and it's just 2 rooms connected with an open doorway. And, I spawn a shotgun in front of you and put an enemy on the other side. But I could not fucking get the map to compile for whatever reason. Like, if you run editor from the console through the source port, version, in the editor, I do what I would have always done, and I just, I go to the build drop down and just, pick the thing to fucking run the compiler. Well, it just wasn't working. And I wasn't exactly sure why it wasn't. So, I ended up downloading multiple different tools. And so, like, one of them I actually downloaded because I was trying to look for something that was more specific to Doom 3, but also at least supposedly had support for, dhewm3, the source port. And I found something called Dark Radiant. Well, actually, no, I found it because I was trying to figure out what was happening. It was saying that it couldn't load the map file. And I was trying to figure out why that was the case. And some pages showed me it was for something called Dark Radiant, which is apparently a custom editor made, for some Doom 3 mod. Well, that got me into the idea of trying other editors. But as I was looking around, I also found another one called Hellforge, which, according to it, is basically a more generalized version of Dark Radiant that should work with other games. And it even explicitly lists dhewm3, the source port I'm using, as one that it supports. Well, I decided to download that and try it out. But when I opened up the editor, like, first of all, holy fuck, dude, the editor sucks. Like, how do you make a custom editor that's worse than the regular one? They changed the layout, they changed all the shortcuts. So certain ones I remember, like Surface Inspector, is like a different key, or I don't know, a bunch of different shit. And then the worst part about it was I make another little test map and I go try to compile it, and I'm like, where's the compiler at? So now I sit there for like 20 minutes digging through all the menus, and I don't see anything. So I'm like, well, what the fuck is going on here? So I decided to look that up. Well, first of all, Hellforge, when it launches, it just says Dark Radiant. And it's like, okay, I understand Hellforge is supposed to be a fork of Dark Radiant, but you couldn't get your own splash screen? So what is that trying to say? Did they just, like, what exactly did they alter? I haven't spent enough time looking into it, but it's like, I mean, at that point, I feel like I might as well just fucking download Dark Radiant, right? But either way, there's no option to build the fucking level. So I go searching for that, and whether it was Dark Radiant or Hellforge's, wiki or whatever, they said that they can't compile the level. You have to run dmap through the game. And it's like, so what the fuck do I need your editor for then? Like, dude, at that point, I'll just use the vanilla editor. I mean, that's what I always used in the past, other to an extent that I'll get to in a second. But it's like, if I have to run the fucking game to compile the level anyway, what's the point of your bullshit, right? So I said, all right, fuck it. Well, anyway, first, there was a point where, like, trying to set up the game configuration, I felt like I might have screwed something up that way. Well, I couldn't find a way to just change the fucking config on the one I'd already made. So I delete everything out of the folder, And then I found out that Hellforge and I guess by extension Dark Radiant do the same bullshit that dhewm3 itself does. You know, the dhewm3 source port. I delete the whole fucking folder, re-extract the zip file, and then it loads back up with the settings I already had for it. I'm like, you motherfucker. And sure enough, it was putting bullshit in like app data or something. I'm like, you stupid motherfuckers, don't give me a zip file if it's not portable. Portable means everything associated with the motherfucking thing goes into the folder I put it in. Wherever I launch the piece of shit from, that's where it's at. Quit fucking doing that. So whatever. I easily found that shit and, you know, deleted it. And then it works how I wanted it to actually just real easily redo a, you know, like a game config. Well, still didn't fucking work either. So then I'm like, all right, well, fuck it then. I'll just try GTK Radiant because I've used that in the past. Had to jump through some fucking hoops to find a version of GTK Radiant I actually wanted to use. But then when the game launches, it doesn't have like any sort of build options for dhewm3. It's basically just Quake 3 type of shit. So then I'm like, well, what the fuck? And I don't know, I couldn't real quick figure out or remember if it had a way to do a custom things some other way rather than doing it through the interface. So I started looking again, and I was just put in, all right, dhewm3 custom Radiant, or like whatever the fuck. And then I found one that I had forgot about called netradiant. And in retrospect, this is probably the one that I used the most for dhewm3 mapping back in the day. And netradiant actually comes with a config option. Like when you launch the game, you can choose the configuration for dhewm3. And when I launched it, it worked without any bullshit. And I was making a level instantly. And the texture showed up correctly, entities, everything was working right. And actually it was a pretty fucking good blast from the past, actually, because I remember using netradiant now that I found it again for both dhewm3 but also Call of Duty, the original Call of Duty. And then also I might have used it for COD 4 as well. But definitely I remember fucking a little bit with Call of Duty mapping with Radiant back in the day. And it was probably netradiant. But definitely now that I've seen it again, I remember it. Fuck, dude. How long has it been since I used that? It might have been 15 fucking years or some bullshit like that. But netradiant made the level and everything just fine. dhewm3 was just sort of working correctly right away. And even off of the basis that like I actually pointed it to the source port folder as the game folder, and it was just automatically working till I went to try to build the fucking level. And I go to the build list, like I click on that, there's nothing there. Now there's a thing that you can customize from. Well, when I pull that up, there's nothing there either. And I don't see any way to add anything to it either. So I'm like, well, what the fuck? Right? So netradiant's not going to fucking work either. For whatever reason, the build programs, it's not like recognized. And now I start thinking, well, does this source port even have that shit with it? Why is it not working, dude? I don't get this. And before I go on with that, also fucking a little bit with netradiant. That I think that might be the only one that will actually show on the entity for a light in the. Like every other one I've fucked with, the vanilla one and every other flavor of Radiant that I've just tried, netradiant is the only one that if you create a light and look in the entity inspector, it actually will show the check boxes to say no specular, no shadows, or to make a so-called fill light like I mentioned in recent videos. The other ones you seem to have to actually add the key values manually or something like that. Although one of them I was fucking with had what they would call a light inspector. Now, does the vanilla Radiant have that? I don't actually know. I haven't tried it yet. This is all bullshit that I've been fucking with for the last, couple hours. So, but One of the things that netradiant does that I forgot about is in the 2D. Oh, that's another reason I knew it had to be the one that I remembered. Every other version of Radiant doesn't have the ability to create a 4 split, interface. So you've got the 3D view and then the 2D views from top, front, and side, right? Every other Radiant I've tried, you have to hit Control Tab to go between them or whatever. At least as far as I can tell. Netradiant, though, the settings menu, including to pick that sort of, 4 split view like I'm used to with Hammer, that, I picked back in the day. Like, that's why I picked netradiant back in the day, was because of how similar it was to Hammer. Because the way Hammer works is just ideal for a brush-based 3D design, level design program, in my opinion. But another thing that I forgot about that's kind of unique to netradiant is that if you're trying to drag models around, like, entities in the 2D views, not with brushes, but at least with the entities, it shows this little kind of like the X and Y, or the X and Z, or Y and Z little symbol thingy on the entity. And I'm used to just grabbing the entity and dragging around, but I forgot the way netradiant does, you have to drag those handles. So you either drag on one of them to move it that direction, or there's this little kind of, square thing in the corner where they both meet. And if you use that one, it'll let you move it freely in both of those axes in the 2D view. That was something I forgot about, and that might actually be something I think you can disable in the options. I don't remember, haven't looked yet, but yeah, that was something now that I see it again, I was like, holy fuck, I totally forgot about that. So at least it's functioning to some degree as a bit of a nostalgia, which is cool. To the point I might fuck some more with trying to. I've made Soldier of Fortune 2 custom levels in the past, and like Kingpin Life of Crime and this and that. I think for Soldier of Fortune 2 I used netradiant, or no, hold on. I think maybe for those two games I used GTK Radiant, but whatever. Netradiant. I hadn't tried QE Radiant yet, but I had thought about it. I mean, this time I've used it before too, but netradiant is definitely the one I would have used the most for Doom 3, for the options it gives you with the lights and a few other things. But either way, when I go to try to build the level, the build options aren't there like in the vanilla editor. So I'm like, all right, well, now I beyond don't know what the fuck to do. So as I'm looking around, I notice in the Radiant, the Dark Radiant or Hellforge wiki, they mention that they don't let you compile it through the editor, which makes it less useful than the vanilla fucking editor at that point, right? Who cares what else you added? You fucked up everything else. But they explicitly mentioned using dmap through the console in-game. Well, this would have to be the first time I have ever fucking done that in my life, because I never remember fucking with that in the past. Probably because I was using, just vanilla Radiant for Doom 3, or, netradiant or something that was just working correctly. Now, I think the reason the build programs weren't showing up for netradiant was, probably because I'm pointing it to something that's not technically Doom 3. Technically, it's a source port. But what was weird about it is I tried compiling the map with dhewm3, the source port, through the command line in game, like it said to, and it still wasn't working. The error I kept getting was could not load map file or some bullshit like that. Nothing I tried, it either wouldn't do anything or it would say the same error. And I was sort of like, fucking pulling my hair out. But then I thought, okay, what if this could be what I think might be happening? So I was like, let me try this with my vanilla version of the game, because it's installed to C drive. I've had programs do this in the past where if it's not on the drive letter or something like that, or the paths that it expects the game to be on, shit just won't work. So I was like, well, let me try this with vanilla Doom 3.